All right, I'm Artie Mosh.
I'm Matt TRK Silks,
And we are the Sons of Mifflin County.
and you are watching the Three Count Podcast.
Weighing in at an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
Dang, high
debate.
pass, where'd you find that Drake ball at?
Well, now, by now, you would know that this is now entering 201. And I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And this is season 2 of now entering 201. And you guys are kind of aware that when I do these kind of intros, it just means that we're doing a return. So, who's returning to the ring? You can find these boys at HWF. You can find them at NCW. You can find them at Aeon. You guys traveling around the area. You guys, they put in the work. They do what they do. But more importantly, it is Matt TRK Silks, RD Mosh, the boys of Sons of Mifflin County.
What's going on, man?
What up, man? No, it's been wild because like when we talked to you last, Matt, it was season 1 of Now Entering the Ring, and you were
I hadn't had my return match yet.
you were just talking about getting your t-shirt company together. Like that wasn't even a discussion.
Yeah.
And to see it now, like things have kind of like changed and evolved, and like now you're in the ring, and then you guys have your school that you have going on. You also have, you obviously like making everything kind of work out together. The promotion, everything's like just kind of working together. So it's wild to see like you go from like behind the stage to like dead ass in front.
Yeah. It's really crazy, man.
And then Mosh, for you, I remember you as just kind of like the stagehand, like a guy that was there consistently, like helping with the ring and stuff. And then you were kind of like the filler of everything. And then, you start off with being in the ring crew, then being a ref, and then making your debut, and then starting to move. And then you could kind of see like the wheels were turning. And then like here you are, like now you guys are all tagged up, working together, trying to like kind of make it in the business. It's kind of cool to watch, like everything kind of like play itself out.
We'll say it's been one crazy year for all that just to start and go down. So
Yeah, I would say. I mean, like I know exactly what you're talking about, Cliff. I mean, like I've literally had this conversation with probably about, I don't know, like 50 people in the last 2 weeks about Artie Mosh's transition, from being stagehand, from being a referee, and then becoming a wrestler. He actually had his first match with me, and his first match was in the main event on a pretty big stage in front of a good bit of people. You know what I mean? And then 1 year later, you guys, oddly enough, you guys are the one that are having this epic match, and if I dare say, the best story that we have had so far. So kudos to you guys on that. Kudos to RD Mosh, and of course the Three Count Podcast is doing well. I've seen a lot of names come around since the last time I was on. I know Mosh has been on. We got to get a couple more of the guys from the school on, but it's been crazy. What, a year or two?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. To think that like even just for like Now Into the Ring itself, like coming up on its 300. I think we just finished at this time. You guys will get to see. We had just finished recording like episode 313. We have a bunch of episodes kind of planned up. I don't want to let out too many secrets, but let's just say a certain IWTV star is slated in the books. You guys know who she is. But yeah, we have a lot of good plans like coming up, and like just some fun things happening. But yeah, you're right. Like I mean, even for us, when we cracked 300 episodes, we're like, bro, we never even imagined that we would be breaking past like 100, let alone 300, and just rolling bands over. But to turn it back over, so we all kind of just like started. I don't want to say roughly around the same time. It's been whether it's probably like about a year apart from like where like all three of us kind of like were like learning and stuff. So I'm kind of curious to see like from the moment that you jump back into the business, right, to where we are now, what is like some of the takeaways that you kind of picked up?
Oh man, I I want to say that I learned everything all over again because I was doing everything all over again. Everything that I did 10 years ago. And I literally was saying it all the time. Mosh can attest to it. I haven't done this thing 10 years. You know what I mean? So reevaluating things, learning from different people, traveling to Maryland, doing seminars, doing all these different things. We didn't do it that way then, back in the day. It was, you were at the school and you were dedicated to that school. You know what I mean? And I talked about that on here before, but like education is everywhere now in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like Jason Heat, I've been plugging him a lot. I've been saying a lot about him. He's structured all three of us at one point or another in the last year or so. You know what I mean? And it's like guys like him have showed me I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing. I had some matches and I've been taking bumps for a really long time. You know what I mean? But I really feel like I've learned the business on another level now. You know what I mean? So, and it feels good to apply it, and having Nick and all of you guys around, you know what I mean? You guys made it a lot more simple to ease into. You know what I mean? So thank you guys for that as well.
Yeah, no doubt. What about you, Mosh? Like, what's the biggest takeaways like you have had learning in like the last 18 months? Because I think that's roughly about the same time frame for you.
Yeah, there's just so much that you can take away from it. It's, the respect that everybody gives you, to know that there's a lot of people out there, no matter what, how many years they've been in or out of the ring, that they always want to help you. Um, and there's, no matter what, sometimes there's never a wrong answer, but there is at the same time, because like some people can give you some bad advice, but also that advice just may not apply to you, but it may apply to somebody else that you can pass along. So it just works both ways on that one. So that's a lot of stuff that I had to learn in those these past 18 months, of whose advice, fits for me, but, may apply to other people that I can pass along, and just be that, that helping hand everywhere.
I think that's the important thing too, because that's something that I took away, like even from like the beginning until like now, was that like one of the big takeaways is that you kind of have to, you can listen to everybody's advice, but you're really gonna take out the ones and twos that really kind of apply to you, and then like apply and use them right regularly. I know, like for me, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got was, and it's something like I have to always be actively like think about, is just slowing down, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go too fast, like you just sometimes you just forget everything, and then you're like, we have to get back to where we were. And it's not like you can call a timeout and then be like, yo, live crowd, we need a mulligan, we're gonna go back, and then we're gonna have you guys just cut it all over again, and we're gonna go from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Wouldn't that be nice?
So many times, so many
Wouldn't that
times
be
I want
nice?
to be like, hold up, pause, live TV, pause.
Yeah.
Rewind. Yo, maybe
Like, hold up. DVR has legitly has made all of our lives so difficult, thinking that we could do that in real life, but not
Yeah.
knowing that it doesn't work. Or like the movie Click.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, but it's like one of the biggest things is just like a like, because it really does matter, right? Like when you slow down, like you tend to find yourself in the positions that you need to be in, and sometimes those lessons have to be learned painfully.
The hard way. The hard way. Yeah. Yeah. I learned a lot of the things that I learned extremely hard. I tell the guys a lot. I wish that I had a mat whenever I was coming up originally. My first 3, 4 years in the wrestling business, I wish I would have had me, but I'm glad I didn't, because now I'm able to, push that onto the other guys and being like, hey, maybe do this, maybe don't do that. You know what I mean? But hey, like Rodney said, the whole thing of like different things apply to different people. You know what I mean? But at the core, we're trying to abide by structure here. You know what I mean? We're trying to do the right thing. Like you said, we can't just stop in the middle of a match. You know what I mean? That's not the way this works. We're not a movie. We're a live performance. You know what I mean? And people just don't understand the things that can happen in these live performances. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. We're living in a special time with the wrestling business, and I'm just really happy that we're all doing our thing. Like you said, we're all really banging some good stuff out right now, and it's crazy. Everybody's doing good.
So I guess where we kind of talk about, right, is that like evolving characters and like learning about them, because the funny thing was is like I think when we first met back in like 2021, it my character was like more kind of like on a serious side. He really wasn't like very playful, but it was a transition period of like from 2021 where like I had just got them working like in a really big match at SCWA, and I wanted to play with the idea of like being more kind of like a comedic, like mercenary versus like the serious side. And HWF, right, my first match with Michael Zamidio was the first time that we got to see the gunspot in its original form, and like understanding like, hey, yo, the comedic timing is getting there, and like I'm gonna start picking up all these pieces to where we recently, right? And Mosh, no disrespect, but we didn't do it in our match because our match had a different story. But in Aaron Connors and I's match, I got to play on those ideas of like fully committing to like this comedy character that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to hear from you guys, like, where do you see your characters at from where you were to where you're going?
Yeah, Mosh.
Well, say from my very first start, I actually didn't know where my character was going. It was just really me playing on the average Joe punk theme at first and trying to figure out what to do with it. Um, and that was how it was going on for the first couple shows. And then it was, I don't want to bring it up, but there was an incident to where I actually got my jaw broken by you, and that time period afterward, like while I was on the sidelines trying to figure out everything, you know, I got to start developing a lot more, thinking how I
Yeah.
wanted to use that. Like, yeah, I don't want to just my character, like my character's not based on, yeah, I have a metal jaw, but the anger side towards the world and using it as a heel and being able to how to tap into that now and be able to use like the different words of, still the punk culture, but like dive deeper into it. So instead of just being the average Joe off the street that you would see for like the classic punk guy, he's got a lot of more of like, I'm going to disrespect everybody around me till you understand who I truly am and know what I feel like and how I felt with throughout the struggles of life and everything else with it.
I I look at the RD Mosh story. Me and you've had this talk, and I don't know if you've talked to Cliff about it or not, but we have all said it, that the broken jaw made RD Mosh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it totally like I said, it tapped into something that I didn't know I had in me. I didn't know where or how to get, because everybody's like, "Oh, be a heel." Okay, but
yeah,
I'm not that in life. I am
yeah,
so normally kind-hearted to people and everything else, and don't like to yell. Like, yeah, I have the asshole side that comes out once in a while, but it's not what the fans see. And what the fans see is something that I've finally been able to find a way to tap into it and find that very much anger side of me that I didn't know I had in me.
yeah. I look at the stuff that we've been doing at PWX, the 2 tag matches that we've done there, and I'm like, that this guy's working like a seasoned guy. He's remembering to do things. You know what I mean? Like me, I've had a significant amount of more matches than Rodney, but there is several times, when you're a tag team, you have to be able to depend on each other. You know what I mean? You
Oh yeah.
really, for a shoot, have to be able to do that. And there's certain things that we both have that we help each other out with, and we know what those things are. You know what I mean? But like, I look at it as like watching him in the ring and watching him move around and being able to remember to do this thing before this thing. You know what I mean? And then me just being popped by it, being like, oh my god, I didn't have to tell him to do that. You know what I mean? He just knew to do that because one, he knows roughly the wrestling business. He knows what we're trying to accomplish here. You know what I mean? So I look at the thing of like where his character started and where it's at now is completely different. I think that it's something that can go anywhere, anywhere. You know what I mean? We've all talked about this, that, and everything else, but like we all have these storylines. You know what I mean? Like you said, Cliff, you got to like unveil the, you know, a big part of what you do in your matches here in Lewistown. Something that we, you know, all kind of formed up together, you know, and I mean, you can clearly see in my progression from whenever I was wrestling in 2021 until 2023 here. He's wearing sweat shorts from Walmart or sweatpants from Walmart, cut off at at the knees with some print on them, you know, and then you see me win the championship and be Rocky. You know, I'm Rocky. I'm getting new entrance music. Oh, got new gear and got a new look. And this, that, and everything else. And then the Russian kills me. You know what I mean? It's the story, man. I remember you coming up to me after the match. I don't know what you said to me, Cliff, but I remember you walking up to me and being like, dude. And I knew just from the way that, the energy you had, I was like, okay, maybe the match wasn't great, but we were able to get something out there. You know what I mean? So that's the most important thing. You know what I mean? Is like character work. With me and Mosh talk about all the time. Like, who are we? Who are we wanting to be in this wrestling business, right? I mean, I know who I want to be as Matt TRK Silks. He knows he wants to be as Artie Mosh, right? But who are we collective? Who are we together?
I
Trying
think
to
it's a
form the
big
right
thing too.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing too, because like, and it's funny because like you bring up like Sons of Mifflin County, and I knew SLMC as a different tag team, right?
Yeah.
And recently, Set Individual has now made his return back to the ring ish. I don't really know return-ish. I don't really know what to call it, but anyway, but it's cool because like I see the chemistry that you have, what you had with Eric, right? And I see the chemistry you have with RD, and it's I'm not gonna say one's better than the other, but you could tell one connection is a lot more fluent than the other connection, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that with when you look at Riot City, right?
Yep.
Nick is able to kind of bend and mold his tag partners to whatever he needs as far as like what he can do in the structure, right? So
yes.
Ron being the one person he is, he's obviously the straight asshole, right, character wise, but he's pretty solid as a base, right? And then you can see with Jason Drake, he's kind of like a high runner, high energy kind of guy, just and sometimes like Sicken has to bring his level down so that Jason can kind of make his level go up. And you see how he's able to kind of work with different people, and you're kind of like working your way at the same way where you're kind of able to pull like certain things out of certain people. Because I know when I see you and Mosh tag up, I'm like, I like the way this team works. And when I see you and Eric work together, I'm like, I like how this team works. But there's definitely a different connection that you have with RD than you would with Eric. And it's noticeable. Not saying it's a bad thing. It's just noticeable. And I'm like, yo, I could definitely see that there's a little bit of growth with you being able to showcase different talent based on what you need from your guys.
Certainly. And to be 100% truthful with you, the whole thing with Eric and him coming back, Eric's a talented cat, man, and I've known that for a really long time. Mosh, another one, very, very, very talented guy. Edward James, these guys they're training, Cliff, you train your ass off for pro wrestling. You know what I mean? This isn't something that we just get to walk into and there's dues that you pay. These guys are doing, not only that, they're, I can depend on them to be able to go out there and to get a reaction, not just do something for me, not just do something for themselves, but do something for the crowd, do something for the overall environment. You know what I mean? So I'm very proud of all of them. I really am. And we're to the point that where we're not looking at this person and that person and being like, well, you're under me. You know what I mean? We're on the same level. You know what I mean? That's what's really important to me. I think that not one person's more important than the other. I mean, obviously, who's in charge of the ship whenever you're out on the road. You know what I mean? When you're with your guys, who's in the lead. Whenever my guys are out on the road with me, they know who's in the lead there. But it's not like we have this thing to where we treat people differently. You know what I mean? These guys are incredible and they're working their asses off. I'm proud of them, all of them.
So we were kind of diving a little bit about character. What kind of like So I know for me, right, and I'm gonna divulge one of my secrets, right? A thing that I love to do is like I like to ask myself like random ass questions about what or who or how or even why Red Dog does the things he does, right? So when people ask me, what is Red Dog like, Pepsi or Coke? I'm like, yo, he likes Mountain Dew. Like it's more important to him than like Pepsi or Coke. And why? Because, it's the same taste. Like, but I'm just kind of curious, like, how do you like evolve your characters and develop like the world that you have? Mosh, why don't you let me know, like, how do you set that wall up, that world up of like Artie Mosh?
Well, so what works for me is like, first off is ability. Like, I can't go through, I'm not a huge flippy guy. I can't go, so I got to be able to know my own limitations to be able to start that base, to know what I can do. But then I start looking at a lot of the stuff for the, like lately it's been, hey, what does like the culture do that I can just morph over to start building those blocks and be able to connect the dots for wrestling. You know, at first a lot of it was, the head banging. So of course, headbutts, across the board, you can do a bunch of stuff like that. So I was able to see my abilities that I can jump, do a little bit of aerial stuff, but it doesn't have to be crazy. So I was able to build those stepping stones and be able to connect the dots and say, you know, to be able to build the arsenal of whatever I need to. That's still trying to figure out, and connect the dots back to the traditional world of like the punk life that I portray in. Even like the mosh pit scenes and stuff like that, that like at a concert, like where can you have your stage dive, so you get a couple dives from the top, you get a couple ground moves just in case if there's a guy in the around there being an idiot and whatnot, so you just pick him up and throw him. Okay, use your own body. uh Phillips there can tell you he's taken my head and threw me into people several times as our tag moves, just because it's like, hey, I'm your weapon for today. Like, here we go. You
Yeah.
know, uh, and then lately it's been fun is a couple things just to punk people out and be very disrespectful. I'll paintbrush you with my mohawk as it's standing straight up, just to be like, instead of like the classic mat wrestling where people paintbrush like this with their hand in the back of your head, I'll do it right to your face with my mohawk and get you aggravated real quick. And people are like, all right, it's go time. So it's just wherever I can figure out to make the connection is to build that wall up.
All right, I like that. I like that. Matt, what about you, man? Like, how are you progressing the character of TRK Silks?
Um, I think that it's one of those questions. It's like a big one. It's a really big question because obviously we're working in a bunch of different places. Um, if we're talking about here in HWF, to where my character is more along the lines of, you know, I'm driven for the championship. You know what I mean? If it's something like that, then I see. I worked Zach Rain. I had a match with Zach Rain here at the beginning of the year, and I think that match and the match I had with Nick, the first match I had with Nick whenever we had the first Summerfest show, those two matches gave me some things to be able to be like, okay, well, I need this all the time, need this all the time. If I have these two things, I should be able to get a good reaction with regardless of how many people are here at the show, and I should be able to make sense of what we're doing out here, right? At first, that was hard for me to do. It was very hard for me to like look at it as, well, I can do all these amazing wrestling moves and I can do holds for days and I can sell my ass on it. But putting this together and having it make sense is what really, you know, like was like my kryptonite there for a minute. You know what I mean? So in this last 2 years, the thing that I've been able to do is listen to the Jason Heats, listen to the Mike Raddicks and these other guys that have seen other guys doing things certainly very close to what I'm doing. And they're like, "It will try to do this or try to do that so you don't, kind of burn yourself here or burn yourself there, So if anything, I've really just listened. You know what I mean? And that's what I really tell everybody is I don't give much feedback, Cliff, because I'm one of these guys that I think everybody knows what they just everybody knows everything, right? So I don't give much feedback except for my guys. You know what I mean? So I'll look at it and be like, I think it's important to try to do this and try to do that, but you never know, man. You're met with some different things. I just tell people to listen. Listening has helped my in-ring work and it's helped my storytelling immensely. You know what I mean? And obviously working with Mosh and the tag team, I never wanted to be a tag guy. I really didn't. It was something that was helping me get other bookings for my students to get experience. And in the long run here, I've gotten to be better, I think. I think that I really have gotten to be better in the ring and having Mosh to feed off of and having him in my ear. You know what I mean? And that's what's important. You know what I mean? And he really has helped me immensely. I look at my trajectory of where I want to go is I don't want to, I want to win tag titles. I do. I want to win tag titles with my best friend. And my best friend is Artie Mosh. We travel to work every single day together. You know what I mean? We talk about all of this stuff. We really do. We put our lives together around wrestling. We really do. And I look at it as like the both of us are progressing the way that we are because we're feeding on positive energy off of each other. Now, there is negative energy also, and he can tell you the same thing. We feed off of that also. You know what I mean? That's a tag team, man. I really do. I feel like we're not just a tag team. Like I feel like this is a real shoot tag team. You know what I mean? And I think that's why things are coming across so different than what it was with Eric. You know what I mean? Eric and I was different, Mosh and myself different. I really, really enjoy this thing that I'm doing with Artie Mosh, but overall, the character development of me is, people are just now starting to call me the Ring King. You know what I mean? And that really is something that I didn't expect to happen. So it's like, okay, I see TJ Sykes doing his thing as like a king. I see Nick doing his thing as like like a mob boss. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't want to do too many of this and too many of that and get blended. I mean, damn, we already have the Riot City colors anyway. Me and Nick were just talking about that, you know. But
At least we
yeah.
do more black and white instead of adding the red into it a lot more. I will say that.
We do.
It is funny because the thing that I love about wrestling is that you have to have like chemistry. Like that has to be number one. And by all means, you can be tight with a lot of different people in this business. You can be friends with a lot of people in this business. A lot of people can be in your corner. It doesn't mean that necessarily it's going to translate to chemistry in the ring, because you can still have a lot of love for people, but just sometimes it is. When I think about those things, it's like Matt and Jeff Hardy, like in WWE, right? Their TNA stuff, phenomenal, right? WWE stuff, it just wasn't there. And sometimes that happens, right? And like you can still have immense respect. But it is something you brought up that I really liked, right? Because you talked about with Eric and you were different, and clearly, RD Mosh and TRK Silks, like y'all just have a different type of chemistry that just works together, right? Like when I think about good chemistry teams, right? I obviously we brought up Riot City, right? I would also bring in Pure Ignorance, because that trio right there, it's whatever.
Dog Nation.
Dog Nation is another great one. God, Black Privilege is definitely another team that can be talked about. But there's like so many good tag teams, but they all have chemistry. That's what's really needed in that time. So it's just, so obviously you guys spend like a lot of time and you guys are constantly working on that chemistry, like whether you guys are traveling together or just working together in practices and stuff like that. But what else are you guys doing outside to help grow that chemistry?
See, before even jumping into that, to answer your question, Cliff, but something we also realized is there is a lot of difference in our style that we use as well. That I feel honestly makes that connection a lot easier. When you have too much of the same chemistry of the same person and the same style in ring, it doesn't gel well as a tag team. You need a base person, and then you need one that can either go higher or go lower so you're not on that same level. Um, Matt does a lot of traditional classic style wrestling moves. I have a different style that's more of the brawler that does, or, if it need be, I can go up on top and, you know, carefree and jump out and do the flying headbutt and stuff like that. But when you don't have that healthy mixture, it doesn't click very well. But go back to answer your question, even when we're not training, or at a show together, our drive to work or driving home from work, even there'll be days if we're sitting at his place or my place, chilling with families together, that we'll come up with ideas and we're like, hey, what do you think of this? Or hey, I have this, and we'll write it down and send a text message to each other, or just so we don't forget it, and we'll try it someday while we're practicing. But like we're constantly thinking of each other and knowing, like, even days off to where we're not talking, where you would really think that we wouldn't be interacting. We'll say, hey, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
Like that connection and that bond, like eventually, like we've been friends and best friends for 20 some years at this point.
Yeah.
So it's become more than just a friendship. It's almost like a brotherhood, like a family, that where, he spent times with my kids. I was the first one out of our group to go see him and his, when Matthew was born.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. We've been that gel together that our chemistry at that point is just not in ring. It's a family outside of here.
Yeah. I mean, but we also like there for a long time. I wouldn't talk about it or whatever, but for about 6 or 7 years, we backyard wrestled together with each other every single weekend of every single summer. You know what I mean? So it was like we already had like this understanding of like you have to have like some type of chemistry. You know what I mean? But whenever we get in the ring here and then we start working with these different people and they're really guiding us a different direction and we're watching different people, different tag teams, watching Riot City, and we're seeing what everybody else is doing. Like he just brought something to my attention the other day that I would have never imagined. Like I have a license, I drive, you know what I mean? But I don't drive on show days. I normally, the wife drives or, we try to link up with someone that's driving. And he's like, oh yeah, you gotta be up front. You gotta kind of be the Nick of the group, you know? And but it's
Someone's got
funny
to
though.
chauffeur you around.
It's funny though. It's funny though that like that is so hilariously close that like you have all these people traveling with you and you don't want to make anybody look bad. You don't want to let anybody down. You know what I mean? So if you have some Artie Moshes and some Edward Jameses out there, I have a feeling that we're going to make some good business. You know what I mean? But like on the level of me and him having the connection that we have is it's different. He's done all these tattoos on my arm. You know what I mean? Damn near all of them. You know what I mean? And like he said, the travels to work and this and that there. And whenever he was down, and whenever he had his injury with the jaw, I was running a show. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking about my best friend, and he's in the hospital, and I know that he's gonna have to have surgery. And I'm like, I gotta go out here and do this moonsault. I gotta be able to save this show. I gotta do something. And you get out there, you see your best friend, just bombing, losing his guts and stuff because of because of wrestling, because of this pro wrestling stuff. That made me respect him on another level. It really did because I don't know if you backyarded or anything like that, Cliff, but whenever we were younger, Mr. Mosh didn't like taking back bumps on the ground. Did you, Mosh?
No.
So to go from me knowing that and me knowing like Rob Noxious, my trainer, looks at Mr. Mosh here on a show we did a couple, what was it, a month or so ago, and said, "So I heard you're not a puss anymore. I heard that you're actually getting it." And he's like, "Yeah, I am." And he shook his hand and he said, "I respect you." That's so big. I know.
That was actually the show before that one that he told me
Yeah,
that.
that
And
is so big, especially to a guy like me, because these guys really weren't supposed to be in the business. You know what I mean? If you think about it through Rob's eyes and the traditional coming in and doing right, I went the alternative route. I caused a little bit of noise. But in return, it got guys like R.D. Mosh and Edward James and the rest of these guys here, like, oh, well, I don't know, you might want to watch those guys. But now everybody wants to look at them. Everybody's like, hey, you're doing so well, you know what I mean? So I love the connection that we have, but I just love the connection you have on a wrestling show. I love it.
It is something too, man. Like, obviously, like the elephant that was addressed early, right? Yes, it was something that happened, right? But it was the camaraderie that came together, right? Because, like, I don't know, Mosh, if people told you, but after the accident, I hey, kids, cover your ears. I was fucking distraught, man.
Yeah.
Like,
was.
yo, I
I
could
know
not.
you were. I know you were, brother. I FaceTimed you and the guys. Every information I got, man, was sending back to you guys. And something you may not know, but he knows. I was trying to get out of there before the main event just to come back to the show. And then I was going to go to Danville to get my surgery. Like straight honest. And everybody's like, you're nuts. You're hurt. You're broken. You need surgery. Go relax and take care of yourself. It's like, all I want to do is see the end of the show. Because for people that don't know, we were the first match out. It happened. They said, get out of here. I was like, okay. I just want to go home, see some wrestling the rest of the night there to chill out and see the main event. Because at that point, there was 4 of the guys that I trained with on a daily, like a weekly basis. At that point, I wanted to see the end of the show, let everybody know that I'm okay. That by the time I'm coming back, good luck catching me, because there's going to be a rocket ship that I'm not getting off of, because it's a ball of fire that I have, and I'm going. Like, I'm learning everything that I can, and not going to stop.
Yeah.
And so I was gonna go with it, right? It was like it was like I was like distraught and stuff like that. But I think something that I kind of was trying to like get back to is just like there was this brotherhood and camaraderie just like that came over the locker room as well as outside of the locker room, right? Because like people were checking on you, I was checking on you, people were checking on me, you were checking on me. Like I don't think like people knew like behind the scenes like there's a lot of conversations that were constantly going of like people, hey, yo, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, here's what happened. We know this was an accident. You knew that like we all like had these great conversations about like we're here to take care of each other at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was like the most important part was that what people don't realize, like, the brotherhood is so tight and so knit that when shit does happen, we're all there to kind of like help each other and guide each other and be like, hey, yo, get up, dust your stuff off, and then like keep it moving. And so I was like, I just remember like after the incident, and I remember like this is the crazy part, Matt. I don't know if I ever told you this, but like Rodney was like, hey, he straight up told me that you got me good. I think something happened. I was like, he's like, let's go to the finish. I was like, okay. So I went for the pin. It's 1, 2. Rodney kicked out, and I was like, why did you kick out? He's like, go to the stomp. I was like, bro, we could have just
Plan
closed it.
finished. You don't just finish me off, and it's not the plan. Damn it.
I was like, okay. So like I hit the stop, and then I told them ring the bell, and then so they ring the bell. I was like, oh, I cannot believe this. I was like, we could have just taken us home, and it would have been just perfectly fine
No,
too.
you have to finish the way it starts if I can continue it. You just weren't getting me off that mat, all right? I was confused.
I'll tell you this right now. It was a completely different experience. Like, I remember after seeing those guys, take R.D. Mosh out, I saw a red dog like I never seen a red dog before. You know what I mean? But like there, in the wrestling business, you have a lot of people that question a lot of things that happen. You do. So you have your people that think, oh, do you think maybe he tried to smack him for real? I'm like, dude, he must be a damn good actor, because when I walked back there and I seen him, that's not a sell. That guy was legit worried about my best friend. And to whoever knows this, you guys are tight too. You guys are very tight too. You guys been tight before this thing happened. You know what I mean? So if anything, it's brought you even closer together. You know what I mean? Which is crazy. It's like you go out there, you have these wrestling matches with your friends, right? You come back and you're closer friends. It's nuts. It really, really is crazy. But that whole experience was nuts, man. But it made you guys' story so special. And I don't think we're even close to like being to the resolution to what's really going to come of that. You know what I mean? But behind the curtain, I'm loving watching it. But at the same time, it's probably one of the most funnest stories that I've gotten to be involved with. You know, getting to be able to help put together, you know, listening to you guys. Obviously, you guys have been, you know, professionals on it. You know what I mean? There's been things that's happened over the course of this time that has made this story so important. You know what I mean? You think back of we didn't have Red Dog at Nightmare at the Coliseum. You know what I mean? He wasn't there. And then you have RD Mosh talking about it. And then you have, you know, me and you talking. You know what I mean? Just days after, you know, we released that you're not coming back to HWF. It's like, what's happening? Nobody knew anything that's going on. That's the best part about pro wrestling to me. You know what I mean? Because everybody thinks they have it figured out. They don't know nothing. You know what I mean? It's like this story here and everything that I got to experience through that was really something. Yeah, it was something special. You know, Mosh has gotten himself. You've gotten yourself. Which also, I wanted to say, I'm extremely proud of you, Cliff, because your transition of, you know, your body and your in-ring work. I've seen several matches, and I've told you this, that I really, really like watching your matches. The DDT that you do is probably one of my favorite DDTs I've ever seen, and I've told Robbie that. Yeah, I've told Robbie that. So big kudos to you, man. You know what I mean? The shirtless look, I dig. You know what I mean? I think me and Mosh talked about that the other day. You're looking good, brother. You know what I mean? So whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And you know, I know that you know that I'm trying to go through a transition also. You've been open and, you know, talking to me as well and stuff. So I really appreciate that, man. I really do. We're family.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny because like, so prior to the match, Mosh and I were calling all the spots, and he's like, "Yo, like I want to take the DDT that you deliver." He's like, "I'm gonna spike it," and when we hit that spot,
too much momentum.
Yeah, he was like, "That happened so fast." He's like, "It went so quick."
Dude, I swear to you, the fans in the front row, if they didn't hear me, I hit with that, and I legitimately stared out and looked at him, and that dazed look. I was like, hey, wait a second. How did I get over here? Because I was going to spike as best as I can and go back down to my stomach. But then I looked out, I was like, hey, wait a second. Where'd everybody come from?
It was definitely funny because I was like, yeah, it definitely happened like really quick. And I remember like I look back, I saw it because I got the footage, right? So I look back and watch, I was like, oh yeah, we definitely look like Sonic right there in a spinball.
Yeah. Oh my.
But moving into like, you know, you're talking about like transformations and bodies and stuff like that. Obviously, like finding like those weak points in your game and trying to like shirt them up and to make them into strengths, you know. So when you start to see those things, like how did you find your few, like, I don't want to say few because obviously we all have tons of weaknesses that we are all trying to capitalize on and try to shore up, but your biggest flaws that you have, right? What were the things that you did to like address those things and try to fix them?
That's a really, really good question.
Well, I can at least I got one real quick. Is you know, everybody gets windy because they move too quick. You know, and we all know as performers at this point, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And tag team wrestling, you know, you at least get to short sprints in some aspects within the marathon of your match. So when in a tag match, you know, if we're, you know, working heel and we're giving somebody else the heat real quick, you know, if I'm getting gassed a little quick, I'm like, all right, here you go, brother. Tag me in or tag me out real quick. I gotta take a second. You know, I've been delivering a little bit too much too quick. I got a little winded. Let me get a breather. And then he can take over as I, catch some wind real quick. Um, I also know, on his standpoint, he has a little trouble remembering things a lot quickly and for matches. And I'm able to help with that because myself can remember a decent amount of it, at least about 3/4 to almost all of it, and I'm able to feed him in, or he's able to feed me memory at that point. Say, hey, I remember I need to be here for this one. Do you remember what's next? And he's like, yeah, this is where I'm at for this one because it's my spot. I was like, okay. So we're able to help each other out in that standpoint. And it's great at that, we're able to hide each other's weaknesses and make it even better, regardless of when we're in the ring.
Yeah, that's perfect. That really is. Like, I mean, I attest the not good memory thing to just really never really being great at that. I've never really been great at remembering all the spots for matches. If there's anything that has really hindered me in getting anywhere in pro wrestling, it's that. It's that, and it's also my attitude sometimes. You know what I mean? I can be a drama queen sometimes. You know what I mean? But the bigger part of that is I know it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I've done over the last 2 years to where I think, I am so happy that I'm a humble person that I really do know when I'm messing up. Like Mosh and I have had this conversation. You own the problem. You know what I mean? So you can fix it. You don't but, and this, that, and everything else. You do what you can to fix it. That's the thing that I've learned over this last, 2 years. I just got the link back up. I went to a Lancaster show for CCW here. I think what was at the end of summer, I think. And
August area.
yeah, I got the link up with one of the guys that helped train me, Jason Havoc, and he's been very instrumental in helping me, think of different ways to remember, think of different ways to, apply this type of work. So if you're just starting a match, there's certain things you wouldn't do right away. If you catch my drift, I don't want to expose too much, but there's certain things you wouldn't do right away. There's certain times that you do things. The psychology of wrestling and putting these matches together. I've been able to really listen to him, but I've also been able to bring him up. Havoc. I've also been able to bring him up to age on the times. He really doesn't watch too much wrestling nowadays. He's still stuck in that time of of the old school stuff in the 90s and the 80s and the 90s. So I look back and we've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff. That's helped me immensely. And that's helped him as well. He's trying to get back into wrestling. And I think that he told me, the HWF show is pretty much, lit a fire. You know what I mean? He comes up and helps at the school. And I attest, I really do. I really am thankful to him because he's been able to help me just by even reevaluating things with my guys and looking at it as like, hey, I know that you're training your guys. I know you're doing this and that with them, but I'm going to go ahead and go back over these things. And I'm glad that he is, because a lot of my guys can do difficult things very well, but the easy stuff can be a nightmare. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at, is we're going back and we're revisiting those easy things of putting something together, because you don't need 10 dives and you don't need 20 super kicks. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not. But at the same time, you don't always need that in your matches. He said he works different. I work different. We're different individuals. We both have tattoos. We're the Brotherhood of the Sons of Mifflin County. But at the end of the day, he hits people with his head, and I do everything in my power to make sure that I bring dude down with me when I do the Muscle Buster, and we take it home. Tag team gold. It's what we're trying to go for. But at the same time, I think bringing it back and reminding ourselves, like, hey, every time you feel good about this, remind yourself that there were things that you could do better. It's always going to be able to be improved. Always.
Yeah, I like that, and I think the one thing that it's a constant improvement of like everything. I know, like recently, I was in a match where the person I got to work with, he had been in the business just a year younger than me, and right, and I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm so great, right? Because I've only been in 3 years. Everybody out there in watching right now, but I got to work this match with him, and he was like, "Hey, I had to be the heel in the match," which I was like, "Hey, yo, I get to be heel, Red Dog." I was like, "Let's get it." And so like you were walking the match and talking about it and stuff like that. And so while we're in the match, one of the spots that we called, I was like, "Yo, just cut this out." And he's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like the crowd's already there. Like all we need to do is we just have you hit this comeback sequence, and they're gonna pop. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So like being able to apply like things, and it was something that got brought to my attention at a match that I was working with Beastman just recently at Voltage. And he had told me behind the scenes, he's like, "Hey, I want you to just start focusing and listening to the crowd and like understanding like where the crowd's at." And sure enough, like when I took the time and slowed down, I was listening. I heard like some kids start to be like, "Yo, come on, let's go." And then I was like, "Hey, yo, reverse this. Let's get this going." And so we did. We hit our sequence. He got the pop. The crowd booed when they saw that like I kicked out, and then we went home, and I've never heard a crowd legit look at me and go, "You're a fucking pussy." It's like, "Hey, yo," I was like, "This is a family friendly show. Like, what are you
Right?
doing?"
And that's one thing
F bombs.
I will say straight now. You may tell people it's a family friendly show to the locker room and everything else, but that crowd don't care. I've heard some things in a family friendly show, like when we're in HWF, us as performers will go out there, cut all the swearing out, even though in the heat of the moment you want to look at the other person and call them out on something and call them a bitch, but yet we don't. And the next thing you know, by the end of the night that we're working, I got a crowd looking at my girl, calling her a whore, a slut, and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, dude, like, family
Yep.
friendly's out the window, I guess, with you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's insane. But that goes back to the testament of like having like great chemistry, right? Because
Oh yeah,
you could be like you could do all the flips and all the greatest looking stuff, right? But if you don't have a genuine connection with the crowd's not gonna care. They're just not. But when you get a crowd that's invested into characters, like then they really like start to hate, right? So, Mosh, we could talk about this too now that our second match is over. But when you came out initially, like the half the crowd popped for you, and like half the crowd booed you. But by the end of the night, like, and I'm not gonna be like,
by the
because
end of
I'm
the
such
night,
a great,
nobody cared.
yeah, not saying because I'm like I can make a connection with the crowd and stuff like that, and I was able to make a few connections with the crowd, and the crowd really started to get back behind me. They really hated it when they saw, the pit check blowing mist in my face.
I still
And I
have
was,
some of that in my shorts. It will not come out.
yeah, I went to work. I had spots all over the side of my face, and people were like, "What happened to your face?" I was like, "Kool-Aid."
That's a good one.
But no, even with that, talents, like we even have stories as a tag team, going like PWX, they said, "Hey, go out here, be heels and everything else." And our first night that we worked together, or even he was in a match with Aaron Connors, we worked heel. We did well, we got over as a heel greatly. We walked out there for our second show, for our first tag match. It was against, guys we trained with in Violent Love. We walked out there, they did a promo earlier in the night. We weren't there because we were at another booking, and they got heel vibes real quick. We walked out. What was it? I walked out and yelled, "What's going on, Schittsburg?" real loud to get quick, cheap heat real quick, calling the town shit. And instantly, straight out, I got cheers. I was like, wait a second. Do you really know that I just made fun of your town and called you dog shit?
It's a
But
different
yeah,
crowd up there.
you love me for it. I'm like, okay, sure. Then we worked heel the whole night and did all the cheating, did all kinds of stuff that a heel tag team does, and got so many cheers for it. And we were so confused. We're like, all right, if you want us to be, the cheating guys that get cheered for, and like the classic Eddie Guerrero, I'll take it. that's a nod to me in my book.
Yeah, we hit them with chairs, man. We hit them with chairs and sent them for cane, and just tore them up and challenged them to a hardcore match that we'll be having in April. And that whole thing, like that whole experience with the crowd up there, and we know that Red Dog is received very well in HWF in the crowd. We know that I am as well. We're probably the two top babies in the company. Um, Going to these different shows, that's another thing, Cliff, that has helped me is seeing the different reactions that you get with different crowds. You know what I mean? I've been able to do some heelish things. I've been able to go out there and be a heel on the road, which has been amazing. It's been great. Being able to go out there and even working with, like he said, Violent Love, our, guys that we train with all the time. Edward James, he's getting sharp out there, man. He just had a great match with Isaiah Frazier also in our HWF show. He's looking to get those baby face pops, you know what I mean? And it's different to see these different reactions with the crowd and how they react to different things. But like you said, Cliff, you know, Wes, if anybody, really does have that feel of knowing like where to go. He's got one of the best characters in the game right around now. So I look at a guy like him and I think to myself right away, like, what made him understand that? You know what I mean? That's what's appealing to me. Where was he at in his career where he was just like, oh shit, okay, I just got to listen to the crowd. You know what I mean? Obviously, people tell you this all the time. Slow down and, listen to this, listen to that. But until it really happens with you, you really don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I really do. So listen, I'm gonna take this over, right? We always play games at the end of our show, right? We have the 3 count podcast, 10 count questions, which is obviously part of now entering ring. But for this one, we play pin submit DQ. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fire off 3 entities, right? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick one to pin, one to submit, and then one to DQ. So we're gonna take this around the horn. First off, we're gonna take the Outsiders. That's right, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Rest in peace, Scott Hall. The Bushwhackers, and last but not least, the Young Bucks. Also, I need 2 different answers, by the way. So if you guys decide like, hey, like I would do this and I would do that, that's cool with it.
You mean putting, or okay? So
Yeah, you got to pin one, submit one, DQ one.
Like, you're winning the match, brother. How are we winning that match with each one of those tag teams?
Exactly.
Okay, I got you. The Bushwhackers, I would say definitely something with your spike hair. It would have to be.
So I think I'm with you. I think we're pinning the Bushwhackers with that one.
I think we're pinning the Bushwhackers. Man.
Yeah, all right.
Who are we submitting?
See, the heel in me is wanting to go that I want to attack Kevin Nash's, quads real good and submitting him and playing that fun game. But also as the great bad guy who in Scott Hall, I kind of want to DQ him as well. But I'm sorry, I'm going to go with the quick one. I'm gonna, if I can get that big man down, I'm definitely gonna take out his quads and submit him. So yeah. I'm gonna go with the Outsiders. I gotta submit the Outsiders.
Yeah.
All right. So that means we're DQing the Young Bucks.
Yeah, because there's no way I'm taking 15 super kicks. I'm gonna end up low blowing one of them at some point.
Exactly.
Okay. I got it. So all right. So our next 3 that are going to be coming up, right? We're going to go with Batman and Superman, Deadpool and Spider-Man, and last but not least, The Thing and the Human Torch.
I don't know much about the Thing in the Human Torch, but I know.
Fantastic Four there, brother.
Okay.
So Justice League, Fantastic Four, and I forget the other tree. What they call the other one?
I forget what they call themselves too. Spider Pool. I don't remember.
Spider-Pool.
It is something ridiculous though. The best friends.
Yeah,
And
I
are
think
we-
it actually is.
And
What's that?
are we working these guys? Are we
Yeah,
doing
so I guess
Yeah.
I guess we got a match with the superheroes here.
Oh, man. Oh no.
All right. I'm DQing somehow with the Human Torch and Fantastic Four because I'm gonna throw water, and I know that's gonna be DQ. That's a weakness. I'm throwing the bucket of water, okay? Because either I'm getting crushed or I'm getting lit on fire. So that's definitely got to be a DQ there.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. There's no way we're pinning Batman or Superman. I think we're gonna
I don't know.
pin Deadpool. I think we're gonna pin Deadpool.
Yeah.
So that means we got to at least submit Batman then, because Superman's
Yeah.
indestructible.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
At the end of the day, Batman's
And-
just a man in a costume that's rich.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, how cool would it be to be like, I submitted Superman?
It would be
Like-
really
Okay,
cool to
so
say
if I'm
Superman.
submitting Superman, there's kryptonite in my legs, like in my pockets, and I'm walking in a figure four.
I like it. I
I'm
like
healing it up, but still getting a win
I'll put the
submission wise.
front device on also. I'll be up at the front and front device. You have
Deal.
figure front.
All right, bet. So our last set that we're gonna have, right? Mario and Luigi. We have Sonic and Tails, and then last but not least, we have Link and Zelda.
Dang. I got a promoter here. It just heard Mario and Luigi. I heard Mario and was like, "Oh, her turn."
All right, well, I'll at least answer this one quickly for that. You're definitely going to give the Muscle Buster to Luigi real quick, as I'm giving out the encore to Mario, so your wife doesn't kill you for taking out Mario. But we are going to pin those
Thanks,
guys.
brother. See, that's
Got your back.
chemistry.
See, I got your back.
I like it. I like it. Okay.
Uh,
Oh man, what would
see, I think we gotta.
are we pinning Zelda?
I think we're gonna might have. No, we're pinning Mario.
Yeah,
We're
we're
pinning
pinning
Mario. So
and we're
I
tapping
think
out.
we would have to go with all right, I'm gonna play the heel game on my end again. I'm choking out submission wise, but DQ with it as well. I'm choking out Sonic with Tails' tail. Like
I like
it's
that.
there. I'm gonna use it.
There you go.
There's like 2 or 3 of them there. I'm just wrapping them up so he can't run everywhere. I just have to.
It's a good one.
But
I like
that
it.
means I can take Zelda's shield and just smash him over the head with it, and I'm getting a DQ there. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it. I like it. The creativity is there too. It doesn't have to be a DQ. It's just a submission. It's a great submission.
Yeah. I have to find loopholes out because he is very fast, so I have to tie him down somehow.
Very true.
Okay. Well, those are the 3 rounds for pin, submit, DQ. So the last thing I need is for you guys to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find y'all.
Yeah, Mosh.
Well, so you can find me on Facebook at RG Mosh, or even if I'm going to do another cheap plug is you can find me either at my shoot name is Rodney Deal. You can find me there as well. And also, if you are in town, in Lewistown, and you want to get some ink, you can definitely hit me up at the Sacred Gem Tattoo Studio where I work. You can hang out, talk to me about anything you want, wrestling, a whole bunch of stuff, getting some ink done.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I had some pretty cool news. And since we're ending out here, just got my first two designs up on Pro Wrestling Tees, so pretty excited about that. You can find me on Facebook. You know, I have my like page, Matt TRK Silks, on there. You can find me up here at the school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 438 West 4th Street in Lewistown, PA. I'm outside training these guys from 5 o'clock until, sometimes 8:30 at night. I'm also on Instagram, on Twitter, but I'm fairly new to those. I had to link up with getting those things, so I'm working on getting a little bit better on my socials there. But the big thing is the pro wrestling tees. Also, we still have honorary wear. I'm making designs all the time, making posters, stuff like that. So anybody's open, wanting to look for new stuff, give me a shout. Just be patient. It's been a minute since I've done some, but yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere.
Bet. Well, they told you where you can find. They even told you how you can get some, not free. Y'all can get some free conversations in ink. No, that's what it is. But they told you where you can find them. They even told you they're new to the Twitter game, so you guys make sure to get them with the follows. Also, hey, you know what that means, because like when we do these conversations, every great part of a wrestling match, we gotta take it home. Because this is the 3 Count Presents Now Into Ring 201, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, which I like to think I am, you always got to find someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? Listen, you see them right. I'm going to get this figure like, there we go. Right there, okay? The sons of Mifflin County themselves, Matt TRK Silks, RD Mosh. So tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're even checking us out on Amazon Music, which has just been announced today. You're even going to our Twitter page. You're showing us our love. You're giving us subscribes. You're following us. You're leaving those 5-star frog slash reviews on all of our Apple podcasts. You're doing all that great stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3Count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.